Kanye West finally apologized.
Kanye West, aka Ye, has finally apologized for all of the goofy goings on that has had the world scratching its head for the past few years. Notably, his obsession with a certain failed Austrian painter, which led to some extremely questionable song choices, as well as many online and offline rants that led to the famous "he made graduation" trend. In an ad published by the Wall Street Journal titled "To Those I've Hurt,"
In the letter, he writes a lot of stuff. I mean, I think it's a little weird that this didn't get a little bit more publicity. Like usually, I would say this is something that I expect to see in my feed, especially the audience that or the algorithm that I'm in. I would expect to see this, but Kanye apologized. He said that I'm not a Nazi or an anti-Semite. I actually love Jewish people. He attributes all his crazy ness and his manic behavior to the car accident that happened. He said that they didn't have the power, I guess, to predict what that accident would do to him long term.
Ye says, "I am not a Nazi or anti-Semite. I love Jewish people." He attributes his manic behavior to a car accident in 2002, but the possibility of further brain trauma was not comprehensively diagnosed. Of all places, Ye also says he found solace in Reddit, given its widespread yet niche forums allowing for conversations surrounding mental health. The musician has cultivated a controversial legacy as of late, and despite his shows often selling out to packed venues, his latest music is definitely not receiving the same attention his previous albums gathered. His diehard fans are what seem to be allowing him to continue making bank.
He also said, I lost touch with reality. Things got worse the longer I ignored the problem. I said and did things I deeply regret. Some of the people I loved the most I treated the worst. You endured fear, confusion, humiliation, and the exhaustion of trying to love to someone who was, at times, unrecognizable. Looking back, I became detached from my true self. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Kanye for a long time was unrecognizable for like 3-4 years maybe. I really don't know what was going on. Like, Ari Spears said something like, what is it like to be so famous and so rich that you just lose your mind? Like if you all the media that this dude is and publicity that he's got a couple wives. He had Bianca damn near naked at the Grammys. He had all kinds of stuff, right? What is it like to have that much money, to touch $1 billion and just say all this shit that comes to your mind unfiltered? I must admit, this dude lived a crazy life, and whatever this thing is, it completely debilitated him, it seems.
And for those who aren't really invested in his new music, the old hits like Graduation are what are keeping his legacy going. On that note, the digital landscape can also be held responsible for furthering Ye's career, considering the sheer amount of posts that basically give him free PR. Ye knows how to game the system, dramatically instigating drama online, which drums up attention across the world, and his apology, whilst certainly welcome, is no different. That being said, given he is bipolar, it's difficult to tell how much of it comes from a place of understanding the internet, and as he says in his apology, simply because the scariest thing about this disorder is how persuasive it is when it tells you you don't need help, it makes you blind but convinced you have insight. You feel powerful, certain, and unstoppable. Ye also explained the reason why he was selling censored symbols on t-shirts for a brief time, saying it was simply the most destructive symbol he could find, which is an eerily similar reason to the type of edgy kid who just found themselves with unrestricted internet access for the first time. It's worth noting that Ye has apologized a couple of times before, although nothing really stuck. Hopefully, what makes this one different is the fact that he is totally acknowledging the challenges that come with bipolar disorder and recognizing that it just might be affecting his behavior in ways that require some sort of proper therapy.
But supposedly he's bipolar or some form of CTE. How do you guys feel about Kanye? We running out of he made graduations. We're running out of those. It's time that he starts actually being reasonable, I guess, and saying stuff that I can align with to actually be a true fan, because I can't go to the deep, dark depths of the internet to try and listen to your music no more, bro. If your shit's not on Apple Music, if all your stuff is not being advertised on Instagram and just regular platforms, I'm not personally going out of my way to listen to you. You are a great artist. You are a great rapper. It's just people don't like how you've been acting outside of your art. People don't like how you've been acting outside of that. And I don't know what to say. Do you guys believe him? I feel like some people saying he's drugged. Some people saying he's not drugged. Some people are saying it's a true apology. I'm gonna take him for his word. It's a true apology. So he shows us something different. But at the same time, he goes from here to here. So it's just so, like, even if it is a true apology, it's so hard to even get back on a reasonable level with this guy, right? I don't know. I want to see him in a better place. I want to see him in some collabs and some big artists. Like, I don't know. I want to see him on the mainstream again. All right. So I'm gonna read the whole entire letter. 25 years ago, I was in a car accident that broke my jaw and caused injury to the right frontal lobe of my brain. At the time, the focus was on visible damage, the fracture, the swelling, and the immediate physical trauma. The deeper injury, the one inside my skull, went unnoticed. Comprehensive scans were not done. Neurological concerns were limited, and possibility of a frontal lobe injury was never raised. It wasn't properly diagnosed until 2023. The medical oversight caused serious damage to my mental health and led to my bipolar type 1 diagnosis. Bipolar disorder comes with its own defense system. Denial. When you're manic, you don't think you're sick. You think everyone is overreacting. You feel like you're seeing the world more clearly than ever, even when in reality, you're losing your grip entirely. Once people label you crazy, you feel as if you don't contribute anything meaningful to the world. It's easy for people to joke and laugh it off when in fact that is a very serious, debilitating disease you can die from. According to the World Health Organization in Cambridge, people with bipolar disorder have a life expectancy that is shortened by 10 to 15 years on average, and 2 to 3 times higher all-cause mortality rate than the general population. This is on par with severe heart disease, type 1 diabetes, HIV, and cancer, all the lethal and fatal if left untreated. The scariest thing about this disorder is how persuasive it is. When it tells you you don't need to help it, it makes you feel blind, but convinced you have insight, you feel powerful, certain, and unstoppable. I lost touch with reality. Things got worse the longer I ignored the problem. I said and did things I deeply regret. Some of the people I love the most, I treated the worst. You endured fear, confusion, humiliation, and exhaustion of trying to love someone who was at times unrecognizable. Looking back, I became detached from my true self. In that fractured state, I gravitated toward the most destructive symbol I could find, the swastika, and even sold t-shirts bearing it. One of the most difficult aspects of having bipolar type 1 are the disconnected moments, many of which I still cannot recall, that led to poor judgment and reckless behavior. That oftentimes feels like an out-of-body experience. I regret and I am deeply mortified by my actions in that state, and I am committed to accountability, treatment, and meaningful change. It does not excuse what I did, though. I am not a Nazi or an anti-Semitic. I am not a Nazi or an anti-Semite. I love Jewish people. The black community, which held me down through all the highs and lows and the darkest of times, the black community is unquestionably the foundation of who I am. I'm sorry to to have let you down. I love us. In early 2025, I fell into a 4-month long manic episode of psychotic, paranoid, and impulsive behavior that destroyed my life. As the situation became increasingly unsustainable, there were times I didn't want to be here anymore. Having bipolar disorder is not a state of constant mental illness. When you get into a manic episode, you are ill at that point. When you are not in an episode, you become completely normal, and that's when the wreckage from illness hits the hardest. Hitting rock bottom a few months ago, my wife encouraged me to finally get help. I found comfort in Reddit forums, all places. Different people speak of being manic or depressive episodes of a similar nature. I read their stories and realize I was not alone. It's not just me who ruins their entire life once a year despite taking meds every day and being told by the so-called doctors in the world that I'm not bipolar, but merely experienced symptoms of autism. They told him he was experiencing symptoms of autism. How weird is that? My words as a leader in my community have real global impact and influence. In my mania, I lost complete sight of that. As I find my new baseline and new center through an effective regime of medication, therapy, exercise, and clean living, I have newfound much needed clarity. I am pouring my energy into positive, meaningful art, clothes, design, and other new ideas. I can't see this last part. I'm not asking for blank, 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 for your patience and understanding, blank. Can't see. Sorry.
Behavior in ways that requires.
That was To Those I've Hurt. I really don't got too much to say. I don't know where this is gonna go. I want to see how Kanye proceeds with his life. How Ye proceeds with his life. And if you enjoyed, you know what it is. Feel me?